Do you ever change it up just to freak people out?
Every once in a while I say, well, that's not my name.
Oh no.
Hey, what's up, everybody? On this episode of the Customer Engagement Lab, I am joined by my former CEO from my former employer. It's bound to be a good time. William Volmuth is here. He is the CEO of PowerChord, and we dive into a lot of really cool stuff when it comes down to how to do digital marketing for brick and mortar stores at scale. We also play a fun game of Are You In, Are You Out at the very end, so stick around. And as always, check out our YouTube channel for the full viewing experience. We're in this badass new studio. If you're listening to this in your car, your headphones, you're not doing it justice. Go check it out. Hey everybody, and welcome to the Customer Engagement Lab. Today, I'm joined by somebody who apparently finds enjoyment in doing triathlons, which is insane to me. I still have injuries in my feet from just doing a half marathon. He is also an excellent voice for radio, and I'm really jealous of that because I sound super whiny sometimes. He knows a whole lot about small to medium-sized businesses and how to get their digital footprint on the map to drive online searches into in-store traffic, which is hard to do. And another interesting fact is that he's also the CEO of the company that I left just before joining PandaDoc. It's William Volmuth. Welcome to the show, William. What's up, man?
Hey, Travis. Nice to be here. Thank you.
All right. I think...
By the way, just for the record, I've done one triathlon and then COVID hit, and then now I just practice a lot for triathlon.
But now you're known as the guy that does triathlons.
That's right. That's right.
You can blame your staff for that one. I was
Very
like,
nice.
I was looking for fun facts for the intro.
We'll start up again now that they're starting to do them again.
What's the hardest part for you, the swimming?
It's the swimming because I got kicked in the head and my tactics were wrong. And so I decided to let everybody go first, and then I basically jumped in the water, but I swam faster than everybody, so I swam into the pack and got kicked. It was not a really good plan.
You know, that's a really good analogy for
Life.
how I do my TikTok marketing.
I see. Okay. Good to know.
So before we get into the show, I actually found a clip of my very last day at PowerChord from 3 years ago where I said goodbye to you and the team over at PowerChord. And yeah, I think, Sean, why don't we roll that up and show William that clip of my last day. Well, Travis, it's your last day on the job. We wanted to say thank you, congratulations on your new role, and we appreciate all the work you've done.
Yeah, man, I'm pretty excited for a new chapter.
Just make sure you drop your laptop on the way out for HR, and good luck, man.
Is there anything else?
No, that's pretty much it.
Aren't you gonna try to get me to stay?
Well, no, we respect your decision and understand this awesome opportunity you have in front of you.
Well, I don't know. I just thought maybe you'd counter their offer or something.
Hey guys! Oh, is now a bad time? No, it's fine, Taylor. Travis here was just saying his farewells.
You were gonna.
It's gonna be okay, buddy. Here you go. Okay, I wasn't really sure what to do with some of the things from his desk. He had this half-empty bottle of really expensive tequila, chocolate chip muffin with one bite taken out of it. Codependent no more. I'm sorry, this seems really personal.
Okay, fine. I'll just leave. I'm just gonna miss you all.
What a f***ing nightmare. I am so glad that guy is leaving. Oh my god, that was so embarrassing, right? What a loser! Wow, well, I think one of us handled that situation really well, and
I remember it differently.
I'll let the audience be the judge of that.
I guess that's what we'll do. Okay.
But yeah, Bill, thanks for coming on the show, man. I'm excited to have you on because I really want to pick your brain on how brick and mortar stores can successfully leverage locally targeted digital marketing. Because a big emphasis for us here at PandaDoc is we want to help small to medium-sized businesses compete against the Goliaths in their industry. And on the last episode, we had this awesome guest who went really in depth on how to run a successful e-commerce business. But now we want to focus shift our focus onto the brick and mortar side of things, these physical locations. And I know that PowerChord helps brands connect with all of their multi-location, whether that's dealers, distributors, installers, And I know over the last couple of years, I'm sure it was good and bad with COVID in some of these brick and mortar locations, but I'll get into it with my first question, which is, what is one thing brick and mortar businesses commonly mess up when it comes to their digital marketing efforts?
So I'll answer that question, but then I want to come back around at the end, and I'm curious, what was the takeaway from the last episode on the e-commerce?
Yes, absolutely.
So what was the number one? So the question was, what is it from a brick and mortar perspective that is an advantage, or what is it that...
Something that they commonly get wrong when it comes to digital marketing.
Oh, it's very simple. It's what a lot of people get wrong. They only advertise when they think they need advertising, not all the time. So, there's such a thing as targeted advertising when you're doing a campaign or when you're doing a sale or something like that. But then there's brand advertising. And the big brands are great at brand advertising, so they never stop advertising. But a lot of your brick and mortars, they don't do it on a consistent basis, and they also don't adjust to current events or what's happening in the world today. And so I think the biggest mistake they make is they stop.
Yeah.
So don't ever stop doing brand advertising, even if you're not a brand.
Yeah.
Your brand is your business, so you should always make sure that you're advertising on a perpetual basis. We've had COVID the past 2 years. A lot of times some dealers don't even have inventory because of supply issues. Don't stop advertising. You want to make sure you're always in front of your customers.
Yeah, that's actually a really good distinction. I have a lot of friends who are in small businesses, and I think that they definitely fall into that trap where they're just like, if it's a seasonal product, they'll try to heavily, invest dollars in those seasons. Next question is, what advantage do brick and mortar businesses have over businesses that are e-commerce only?
So I'm going to tell a personal story.
Okay.
And then we'll try to vet what I'm trying to say from that personal story.
That sounds good to me.
So my lovely wife, Gina, and I decide that we're going to buy a hedge clipper. In our house, we have a 10-foot high hedge. And in our infinite wisdom, we decided we should take that on by ourselves. And so we decided one of our major customers at PowerChord is Steel. They make a great series of outdoor products. And so we hop online and we look at, do a bunch of research and determine what kind of are the top 3 hedge clippers we want. We go ahead and using the PowerChord platform system, we determine where the closest store is that has one of these clippers. So we hop into the store and we get a clerk that helps us, and he is very good and he's very knowledgeable. And the biggest challenge that Gina, my wife, really has is, can she lift this? She's petite, and so does she have the ability to go ahead and lift this and actually clip hedges? So the guy says, well, that's a really great question. Come on. And he takes us in the back of the Ace Hardware of Dunedin, and we literally have her clip hedges with the Steel hedge clipper.
That's awesome.
And she was like, okay, weight's good, really good quality product. I'll take it. So we bought it, and then it was a Steel service distributor. So we went over to the guy who basically talked to us about maintaining the product. He sold us on the fact that he has at least 5 Steel products himself. They're all 10 years or older. And so we literally walked out of there with a relatively expensive hedge clipper, a bunch of oil that I still have several years later in the garage, and we know that this is a very fine quality product. You will never get that in an e-commerce only situation, and you will not even really get that in a big box situation. That let me understand your need, and then let me go ahead and help you solve your problem.
Yeah, that's a really good story. I think it highlights, depending on where you're at in your buyer's journey, right? I think that there is a huge advantage to having a brick and mortar, and depending on the product or service you're offering.
Right.
It is really dependent on those two things. I think a good example is if you need to return something. It can, for me, I bought a pair of AirPods because I thought I lost mine, found the ones I lost. Now I have this extra box, and I was like, well, I want my money back, but I've got to go to UPS. I've got to repackage this box. I've got to get a box because I threw the original box out. Whereas, in that situation, I just come back and be like, can I just have my money back?
Well, the reason I asked you about, what was the takeaway from the e-commerce podcast there is a place for e-commerce. There is a place for big box, and there is sure as heck a place for local stores.
Yeah.
And I think what everybody's trying to figure out, and I think that COVID accelerated it, is what, when, where. Okay, so there are certain people in the customer journey that they may try to buy a chainsaw direct, and honestly, brands are looking at that.
Yeah.
There may be some that want to research the heck out of it, go try it in a store, and then buy it online.
That's true.
There are some that may want to go ahead and do it all in the store, have that relationship, but then return it online. So there's all these ways to slice up the journey. And honestly, what PowerChord is trying to do with their customers and partners is figure out what each person's want and need is, and then go ahead and help them do that.
The woman we had on the last episode who was running a very successful e-commerce business was selling coffee and tea beverages and tea leaves and coffee filters and drinks and things like that. And she had so many great takeaways, but I think one of the biggest ones for her was the ability to expand her reach by tapping into other brick and mortar locations. And she was doing exactly what you said, which is like this hybrid of selling stuff in stores and being able to drum up business and like secure her consistent customers by selling things on Amazon. So she was kind of doing this delicate balance, but it afforded her the freedom. For her, she's a solopreneur, and so she's able to travel where she wants, work from wherever she wants. So that was a big advantage for her.
Yeah. It's interesting. We're seeing kind of a shift and a change since COVID. It's probably accelerating it, but something into conversational marketing is what it's called. So in the old days, you used to go ahead and you used to do a digital marketing campaign, search, social, whatever it is, and you fill out a lead form, and then that lead form basically gets responded to an hour, a day, a week later. We have discovered that we are really now getting into the conversational marketing phase of marketing, where it's like, okay, so I don't want to wait hours or days. I would like a response within minutes.
Yeah.
And so, the whole concept of online versus in-store versus brand versus dealer, it's all about meeting that person where they are then. Because if you don't buy or make a decision with that person, at least for a next step quickly, they are going to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And one of the challenges that I think a lot of local stores have is okay, so how do they get that conversation going when they're basically selling 50 different brands, and each of those brands has their own process and their own marketing scheme, and that's kind of where we're really excited about exploring conversational marketing.
Yeah, that's really cool. And going back to the story of your wife with the hedge trimmers, it was like you guys, where you were at in your journey was like you were still doing it almost in the research phase.
Yep.
And that salesperson brought attention to a question that maybe you hadn't asked or thought of yet.
Right.
And so not only was that really good sales, but that was also like the colliding of the perfect, like where y'all were at in your buyer's journey.
Right.
And where he met you.
Yep, exactly.
All right, switching gears a little bit. Can you share an example of a store that succeeded with a creative or cool or interesting marketing email or SEO campaign of some sort?
Yeah, it's interesting. The world has changed even in the past year because of the changes that Apple has made. So with the IDFA and some of the lockdowns with regards to Apple not, letting their information or having to basically say, yes, I allow this person to get information from me, has kind of even changed the way that we're looking at everything with regards to campaigns and email and what have you. We really now are trying to focus on, trying to get that instantaneous response. So just as an example, we did a YouTube video campaign for basically a client, but we basically drilled that down so that it would go to the local representation of that brand. Okay, so they would go ahead and they would watch a video. It was an influencer type video. They would basically go ahead and fill out that form. We would take a look at that form and determine where it was in the the indirect channel, so the retailer, and then we would go ahead and send that information. We were not trying to convert them into a sale right away. We were trying to immediately have a conversation with them. And so they would basically go ahead and they would start to communicate with the person that watched that video in a very kind of nurturing manner. So we would send emails that basically said, hey, we noticed that you just looked at this video. Here's some other videos that you can take a look at. And we kind of developed that relationship to slowly get them to where they wanted to go. So it wasn't this in your face, hey, let's close your business now. It was much more of a, hey, here's a YouTube video. We obviously are targeting a particular video. We are immediately getting your email information, and then we are targeting you in a very unobtrusive way to get you to build that relationship again. So we're starting to do more and more of that.
It's like a consultative approach of selling.
Is.
I remember when I was working at PowerChord, one of the things that the digital marketing team was exploring that really stood out to me were weather-based triggers.
Mm-hmm.
Do you mind explaining what that is for our audience? That's like, I have no idea what that is.
Yeah, so we have a lot of different partners, and we both obviously some of them are kind of virtual and some of them are not virtual. But the whole concept of weather-related triggers is we are looking for weather patterns in certain areas. We have a list of customers in certain areas, and so based upon weather conditions, even current events, anything that's particular to a particular area at a particular point of time, we can go ahead and set up a digital campaign to go ahead and attack that particular area based upon that information. It's really cool.
It's really cool, man.
Yeah.
I remember being like, wait, so you're telling me that y'all can run a campaign when the weather forecast says there's going to be a snowstorm in the next 48 hours for snowblowers to be retargeted to people who have visited snowblower websites?
Well, and that's actually the real circumstance, because one of our clients is a snowblower client, and so that's exactly what we would do. And we're even getting to the point where we now geolocate, so we have the ability to geolocate homes around a lake. And then we can basically go ahead and send them campaigns based upon the fact that they're on a lake, and one of our clients happens to be a dock client.
Installing docks
for
wild.
lakes. So there's lots of really cool things that you can do nowadays. We have another partnership where there's SDKs so that, and of course, again, this is all approved because we do care about privacy and security.
For sure.
But if you are interested in truly getting pertinent information to your particular journey, we want to do that. And so if you go ahead and say yes to allowing us to find out information about you, we will know if you go into Ace Hardware store, and we will know that maybe you bought a particular hedge clipper, and we will literally send you a pop-up that says, welcome to this store, here's the things that are going on in this store today. And we partner with people that do those kind of things as well, which is really cool.
Yeah, I've gotten those when I go into like Ace Hardwares and stuff, and I'm like, okay, this is actually helpful.
Well, and
because it knows what I bought and what I want.
Listen, my background's actually in security and privacy.
That must be really interesting.
And so I'm always like, okay, is this creepy or is this useful? And it's a fine line.
It is.
You don't want to ever cross that line, but at the same time, I always am out talking to customers and consumers, and the question I ask is, tell me about what privacy means to you.
Yeah.
And if there are people that are like, listen, I'm okay with giving you generic information if it helps me in acquiring things that are useful to me. And so that's the balance that you're always doing in this crazy virtual world today.
As a marketer myself, I get fed ads all the time, and I'm constantly just like evaluating them. I spend a lot of time obviously on TikTok, making silly things for my podcast guests. And I've bought several products that were advertised to me on TikTok. And I'm like, I make sure to go from the TikTok ad to the store from my phone and make the purchase so that marketer gets that attribution.
Nice.
And I'm like, I got you. Whoever decided they wanted to experiment on TikTok, I'm going to buy that. Whatever,
and TikTok's
pre-workout powder.
That's a big thing right now. No, I was watching. My family watches these silly dance videos on TikTok now, and so we were watching a series of those, and we got an ad for a car company that I had never heard of, and so naturally I went online and I looked it up, and I think it was a Polish car company. And then I looked and I said, oh, I didn't know that you could buy that type of car. You could not. So
Your VPN.
I don't know what happened. There was some confusion with regards to the audience that they were trying to deliver to. But that's one of those challenges from an attribution perspective with
true.
regards, okay, you got to get it right.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's annoying.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so I'm really interested that there's this really cool electric car in Poland, but you just gave me a ad for it, and there's nothing I can do.
And you're like, all right, we crossed the line of helpful, and we're now not being helpful.
Yeah, that's right. And that's the challenge I think all of us face as marketers. So.
All right, so my final question before we go into our fun little segment at the end is, if a brick and mortar store is at a financial place to start doing some digital marketing, like they've got the budget, they're doing well with their finances, revenues and profits are flowing, what's one channel that maybe they should start with and why?
Yeah, so I think that's probably the easiest to answer. Paid search.
Okay.
I mean, you already know they're looking. They Google for something that clearly has tied back to you. That's a pretty quick hit.
Yeah.
And I think with everything going on with social and some of the battles that Facebook is meeting right now with their targeted ads and the challenges, that is definitely the biggest bang for your buck. I will say, though, that I think that the trick and the challenge for any small business is you got to advertise, but it is not a static event, and you got to keep observing what's going on in the world because it is changing all the time. But paid search is pretty consistent. You can start with that for sure.
Okay, friends, you heard it here. Start with paid search. Let's move into our last segment. There are going to be some fun questions, but also some different ones. So we're going to play a game called Are You In or You're Out? If you are an avid listener of the show, you know what this is all about. I've got a whiteboard here for you, Bill, that I'm going to hand over to you. You're just going to write down the numbers 1 through 5, and you're going to basically hear 5 different statements from me, and then you're going to write down if you're in or you're out, and then we'll kind of break them down.
Okay.
All right, you ready?
Let's do it.
So there are no right or wrong answers. It's just what you think. You can also answer yes and no or none of the above if you would like. There are no rules.
Okay.
All right. So statement number 1, hiring an agency to do your digital marketing is better than hiring an in-house employee to do it for you. Are you in or are you out? Hiring an agency to do your digital marketing is better than hiring an in-house employee to do it. Number 2, it's better to prioritize Google My Business verification and information over SEO and digital ads. It's better to prioritize your Google My Business information over any SEO or digital ads you're doing. Number 3, your wife knows how bad your interior design taste is. That's why she started her own interior design business. I don't think I need to reread that one. Number 4, in the short term, you should invest in hyper-local paid ads for quick returns. Number 4, in the short term, you should invest in hyper-local paid ads for quick returns. Number 5, in the long term, you should invest in an SEO audit of your website to figure out where you can improve on-page content, site speed, and rankings. That's a long one, but I'll read just some of it again. In the long term, you should invest in an SEO audit of your website.
All right, well, they could all be ins, honestly, but I knocked out one just so that we wouldn't get too bored.
All right, the first one. What did you say about hiring an agency?
I said in.
Tell me why.
So this is a really pertinent one in today's world because, you see brands change to being all internal and all external. And they go back and forth. And so you see these cycles. Right now, you're seeing a lot of brands that are basically removing agencies and they're bringing everything internal. I understand. I also think that if I was giving my true assessment of that, I would say be careful because agencies get the experience across industries and across ages and across backgrounds. You can never beat that by going internal because you're always going to be limited. So I would say go external, even though it's not the flavor of the year right now.
I think I agree with you, especially if our audience is small to medium-sized businesses. You have to think about the challenge of trying to bring on employees. all of the complexities that come in with having employees for specific things.
Not to mention, it's so hard to hire anybody right now anyway. Why would you mess with that? Just hire an agency.
Yeah, you can quit like I did in
That's
the
right.
TikTok video. All right. Number 2, is it better to prioritize Google My Business verification over SEO and digital ads?
So I set in on this one just because I think you do both.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very easy to hop on and check your listing and make sure that it's accurate.
Yeah.
It actually takes like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So you should do that right away, and then you should do everything else.
I agree with you. I think, especially, I'm thinking of my friends here, especially that run. They're the owner, the founder of their company, and they're the only ones working there, right?
Right.
And they're the ones that have to go do it. Like you said, it takes 10 minutes. Just make sure your hours are correct.
Yep.
Verify all of the different, things that Google's asking you to.
Yep.
And yeah, I think the easiest way that he gets all his business is because he has the little widget when you search he owns a barbershop, and you're able to just immediately book an appointment from his website because of the little booking widget that's on the Google My Business.
Well, that's exactly right. And it's almost the beginning of your journey online by doing that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that's an easy one.
3, your wife knows how bad your interior design taste is. That's why she started her own interior design business. Which, by the way, we need to have your wife on the show to come talk
You
about
should.
all of this.
She'd be a cool guest. So I set in.
Okay.
And I don't think I have terrible taste, but she probably would not be fond of my taste. I think that's a preference thing. I saw the picture of your cool setup in your house, and the fact that you were like, so, I don't know what's wrong with this. and so that's kind of how it is. I saw a picture on LinkedIn of this really cool office space. It was a security operations center. I'm not sure if you're familiar with what that is, but it basically has like 5 computer screens, and it has territories where there's intrusions going on. And I was like, I brought this to my wife, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. We could put these monitors over here, and
Set
I
up
could
the
have
battle
3
station.
different monitors, and it would be awesome. And she was like, no.
Yeah.
Simple as that. No, that's ridiculous.
It's been an uphill battle for me to...
But she is very, she's very good at design, and I love our home, and I love what she's done with it. And she's apparently there's certain individuals that can see a wider spectrum of colors. So there's so many colors I can't even label them. And by the way, she knows the FF00 and all the color codes as well. I mean, she's crazy. I cannot tell the difference between a blue sock and a black sock.
So yeah, I definitely think that you're in on that one.
Yep.
In the short term, you should invest in hyper-local paid ads for quick returns. Number 4.
I said out,
Okay.
But sure, you should.
You're like, dude, these are all softballs.
Yeah.
Why are you out if you're out, or why are you in?
I mean, it was too easy a question. It was
Okay.
like, sure.
You're like, I already said
I just said paid search is what you should do, so.
It's true. Investing in an SEO audit of your page to figure out where you can improve.
Yeah, I think you should do that. You said long term, by the way. I think you should do that
Yes.
right away.
You think that's something you do right away?
Yeah. We actually, when we're evaluating, we do that almost as a, hey, let us do a quick audit and tell you what we see.
Gotcha.
So.
Cool. Any final thoughts as we wrap it up? And this has been a good one.
No, this was great, and I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks.
Where can folks find you?
Nowhere.
Nowhere. Don't look them up. Don't find them on LinkedIn.
Don't look me up. You can't find me. I'm
not on
getting rid of all
TikTok.
social aspects of my life.
You can definitely find them on LinkedIn.
You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook, although I really don't use Facebook. I do look at the pictures for my family and friends.
You can find
mostly
them-
weddings.
You can find them doing triathlons, getting kicked in the
Yeah,
head.
you can hop on to the PowerChord site.
That's right.
We've started our own podcast there.
Yes.
Travis was kind enough to sit in on our show last week.
Martech Talks?
Yeah, Martech Talk.
Go check it out.
Check it out. We're trying our best to be entertaining and informative.
Yeah, man. It was a blast. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. And everybody, stay tuned. We'll have another episode next week.
Thanks for listening to the Customer Engagement Lab, brought to you by PandaDoc. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe to our YouTube channel or connect with us on LinkedIn. We love to hear from you and what you think of the show.